Oh, we're already live. Hashtag no music, no intro. Another episode of the Saints Block Party podcast coming at you. We apologize for this late uh, draft recap episode. However, as anyone who is a fan of this podcast knows, Ryan and I do have personal lives. So things happen. And somehow Ryan got married like really during draft week or draft weekend a couple of years ago. So we still try to make it work the best we can, but we are recording this on a early Monday morning. It is 8 a.m. in California. I need to work, but before anything, um, we got to talk about the Saints draft class. We have to talk about
Of course.
class. We got to talk about the state of the team. I've tweeted. Jerry said I was looking for y'all Sunday night. Oh yeah, Jerry, we were life was life, and so we're here. Um, I've tweeted it. I tweeted it after kind of taking it in that I think maybe the future of this team is a little brighter than maybe we thought
Hmm.
before this draft class. Um, I say that because of a number of reasons, but the big thing for me is it feels like this team has maybe reconfigured and maybe rethought about how things are going to go forward for the team. And I think long term, that is huge. That is a huge subplot from this draft class.
No, man, that's huge, and just for them to operate how they did, to show patience, patience in the draft. It does seem like something's changed. Just this whole off season, it's been a little different, you know. So it's interesting, man. I'm just I'm a whole out hope. I'm a whole out hope.
Yeah, I'm not diving right back into it, but
Right.
just little things, right? I think little things in terms of when we talked about a little bit after the first round recap that the team was trying to potentially trade into the top 10 for Michael Penix Jr. I know there's
Yeah.
reports out there that saying that wasn't true. Again, I'm not one to refute reports. I'm just one to put out what I know. And just like Jesse Palmer, whatever NFL Network reported, heard the same. I you know me. I don't ask my friend questions. I don't do it because I don't like to be that person. But I saw that tweet that came out after Thursday night draft night, and I was like, nah, did these niggas really try to trade into the top 10 for Michael Penix Jr.? I was like, nah, there ain't no way. And sure enough, it
Ain't
was
no
it was
way.
con- it was confirmed. It was confirmed in I think if you really listen to Jeff Ireland these last couple of years and last couple of seasons during the off season, the man wants a quarterback.
Yeah.
Like he like that has been something that's like kind of been on his radar of like him wanting a quarterback. And for me, my biggest takeaway is I get the sense, and they're never ever going to come out and say it. And I think we've kind of seen why
Never.
because they want to protect the ego of a certain quarterback. But I think they get the sense that Derek Carr isn't the guy, and they want to have a better player at that position, which honestly, it's all we've been asking for as fans. It's like we know you can't be that blind to see what we see.
Right. And it can't be. And maybe it's not 100% of the the staff. Maybe there's factions,
Hmm.
but it ain't everybody not on board. Put it like that. There are definitely people within the building that say, "Hey, Derek Carr is not the long-term answer. And if you don't have the long-term answer at quarterback, you got to constantly be looking for that long-term answer. Constantly.
We constantly,
So
and we hinted at it with the Ziegler signing coming from the Raiders, right? Like,
yeah.
who knows how much impact he had? But we kind of was jokingly saying like maybe he was in Mickey's ear saying like the Derek Carr guy ain't the guy, right? And I'll say this:
I mean, he was the guy that let Derek Carr leave the building, that booted him out the building. He was the guy.
So
So
all
I'm
of a
just
sudden
saying.
it's gonna be like a kumbaya, like like he's just gonna match like 2 seasons later or whatever it was. He's just gonna be like, oh, okay, I made a mistake. No, no, I don't see it.
And
I,
but the thing is, like you say, man, like the Saints, you will never hear from anyone in the Saints that they
nope.
were trying to get Michael Penix. So people that'll be like, I know some people will be like, well, John Hendricks reported this, that, and the other reported, and this is not. We are not refuting their report because
Nope.
they 100% reported what they heard. You know what I'm saying? And they have no reason not to believe what they heard. But when you think of like Palmer, his connects are probably from different teams, different agents of different teams.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
what we're hearing is from someone who has been very reliable over the years. So
To the
look,
point
you could
to the point that we got together on Friday night, and I mentioned some stuff to you that was probably going to happen on Sunday. Did not everything I mentioned to you happen on Sunday, like almost verbatim?
happen, bro. Verbatim.
Like,
So it's one of them things. Believe it or not, it's like the whole thing a while back with the Taysom Hill,
oh boy,
Derek Carr not being a fan of Taysom Hill, things that you would never hear that from the team. You would never get a confirmation of that from the team. But look, if you come here for content, we're not trying to spread bullshit. We're not lying on people. We just giving you
mm-mm.
what we hear. And if we hear it, not just things we hear from anybody, things we have confidence enough to say. So if we say it, that means we have the confidence to say it. So you can take it, you can believe it or not. It is what it is.
Steve, our dude in the UK, said, "Looks like we're getting the bus back together." Hold on, hold on, hold on.
Man. The
I'll,
bus.
no, I learned my lesson after that Chiefs preseason game last year. I learned my lesson, bro. I was
Bruh.
dove right in, dove in. But we're getting into the draft class. But I do think a key thing I took away from this draft and just the overall process is that I've harped on like the Saints need to draft players who are like coach proof. I mean, they're going to be good no matter who the coach is. I came away from this
Right.
draft class thinking that this team, it's not completely set up yet, but there's a direction on this team that the players that they drafted, they're building a nice little nucleus that potentially is going to be in place no matter who the head coach is, no matter who the quarterback is. And I think that in and of itself is huge. It's huge.
Huge, bro. And you never know what happens with this team, with Dennis Allen going forward. It could be a situation where they bring in another coach after a year. Maybe they stick with Dennis Allen another 2 years. Who knows?
Oh,
But
don't say that, Ryan.
the,
Please,
but the
please,
key
bro.
is just to keep bringing in talent. And one thing I liked about this draft, and really the last two drafts, is something we've been harping on for a while is get good players with good tape. You know,
That's it.
the metric, like meeting the metrics and all that stuff, that's fine. But also have the pedigree and have the athleticism and have the tape to go along with it. And man, just looking through looking at every player, looking at some of the tape I saw, man, every player has something to. There was no Rick Leonards in this draft. There were no
Right.
Kyrie Forts, Stanley Jean Baptiste, where I'm just like, what? Peyton
What?
Turner, where it's like, what? Who? Like, what is?
Marcus
I didn't see
Davenport,
any of
or
those.
there are no
Yeah,
players where you have to squint to see it. Like, I'm not saying that they're all
right. Like,
perfect prospects.
exactly.
G made a
Exactly. They're
great
not all
point.
perfect prospects, but
Sorry, I just keeping up with the chat. So right now we have 33 concurrent viewers. So it seems like maybe we got to do more morning. Everyone at work
people at work, people
just
at work, man, just chill. Get to work, damn
well,
it.
on the phone. Uh, G said, "I'm so happy that there was no trading future assets." And then he says maybe they actually learned from the Eagles trade. I'll give them credit. They didn't, although they were antsy in the third round like that. They almost give a next year second to trade back into to get a third round pick this draft. I don't know who they were targeting, but they got antsy, but they held off. Catching up with the chat, off topic, but what would you trade to bring back Trey Hendrickson? Bring Trey Hendrickson back next year second. I don't know if that would. I don't know if the Eagles would. I'm sorry, like Eagles. The Bengals would even be interested in that. But I'm calling Mike Brown. I say, here, I give you next year's second right now. Just trade Trey Hendrickson back, and then the Saints would then get him back, take his contract, rip it up, give him a new contract. Because then, and I don't think they're one. I don't think the Bengals have any interest in trading Trey Hendrickson at all.
No,
Um,
no.
I do like the whole thing about him retiring. I know that's kind of like agent spin and kind of like, but like I could like it wouldn't surprise me. Like he's had neck issues. Like him actually just
Yeah.
being like, you know what? If I'm not gonna get paid, I'll hang it up. I think there may be a little to that, but I'm calling Mike Brown. I'm offering them a second. And I said, I'll give you a second to trade Trey Hendrickson. And let's say in theory you're able to swing that and you're able to get a player back that never should have left. Your entire defense looks completely different. It looks completely different.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Hell
with
yeah.
the secondary you've added in Kool-Aid, and we'll get to all that. Also, assuming that they retain Marshawn, that's the big thing about the draft that I kind of left annoyed with is that they were still trying to trade Marshawn. Um, don't know, now that teams like the Eagles, what's the other team that drafted a quarterback?
Lions.
Yeah,
The
Lions have
Lions.
addressed. Yeah,
Both of them drafted two.
yeah. So
Yeah, both of them drafted two. So it's like,
So that to me probably like they're out of the equation, but that's the thing where I'm just like, you guys have just had so much growth. Don't mess it up, please, please.
please.
We talked about it, we talked about it this offseason, especially. It's like all the good news comes out, and then it's just like, don't want that. Don't just keep it up, please.
Keep it up, man.
Some other questions. Do you see Chris Olave fitting in the Niners style offense? Can he run block? I mean, I do, but I think we got to be careful of just automatically assuming that a Clint Kubiak offense is going to be a Niners offense. I think that's something to be very
Yeah.
careful of because I'm sure there's some things he learned from Kyle Shanahan, but at his core, Clint Kubiak is not a Shanahan disciple. He's a Gary Kubiak disciple. That's what and I'm not saying that Shanahan's scheme doesn't have concepts of Gary Kubiak and vice versa. They both do, right? But I just think you got to be very careful about that and just assuming it's going to look carbon copy. I would there's probably going to be some type of, merging of both. If I had the time, I really would like to. I would like to just go through all the all 22 when Clint Kubiak was the OC. The Vikings and write an article in terms of what I saw in terms of what his off. I mean, again, that was a couple of years ago, so it's maybe even changed since then. Although offensive coordinators
Yeah.
don't change drastically, bro. Typically who they are. I think Chris
Yeah.
Olave is going to do great. Period.
Yeah. And here's the thing. When I was listening to Clint Kubiak, he was on WWL, and you could tell if you listen to him, you listen to what DA said, he's being brought in for the run game. I mean, not saying the pass game won't be a focus, but we when we think offense, we constantly think of how the pass game is going to be utilized. But his thing is getting this run game improved. That's where they're starting at. And then everything else layers on top of that. So, as far as Chris Olave, run block, and stuff like that, they all gonna get it in, bro. It's all gonna be a part of the scheme. I'm not worried about Chris Olave, run blocking and all
No,
that.
no.
It's all about all the pieces coming together. Who was it? Who was it that somebody described the Kubiak offense as like a symphony? And I'm like, man, that's
Oh, it
That's a
was
good way to put it in.
Baldy.
Right, yeah, Baldy. It is like, man, if everybody buys in, it could be something special. But it's remains to be seen, bro. Like I said in the Discord, it's the biggest, most fascinating thing going into this off season. I mean,
Right.
going into this off season is we have a new offense. Like for almost 20 years, you put on a Saints game,
20. That's
you
like a
knew
whole child. That's
exactly
a
what
whole
the
ass adult right now, Ryan.
bro. You knew what the offense looked like. You know what I'm saying? Like we hit a check, we hit a kind of knew what was going to happen. Watch, and we have no idea what we're going into, and
None.
that's what makes it fascinating.
I would like to also mention that right now we have 48 concurrent viewers. I think that's our highest number we've had concurrent viewers since we've done live streams. People at work
Let's
just
go.
love it, love it. Um, Getting into some other questions. Sandman says there are 20 teams looking for new quarterbacks. What's news about that? Well, I would say, Sandman, that although there may be other teams looking for quarterbacks, you've had a team in the New Orleans Saints that have been very staunchly behind Derek Carr since he signed as a quarterback with the Saints and had no indication that they were even attempting or wanting to move on from him when he came off, let's be honest, a subpar season after he was signed as a free agent last season. So I think it is very, very newsworthy that the Saints not only potentially were trying to draft a quarterback, we're actually trying to trade into the top 10 and jump in front of Atlanta to draft a quarterback. That in and of itself is very newsworthy. That's just my opinion, though.
Yep.
Let's see. Someone asked if we would do I saw it, Ayuk for Lattimore swap. No. One, Ayuk wants to be paid like a top 8 receiver. And I think if anything, this draft class has showed that unless like, and this is not a knock on Ayuk. I think he's a great wide receiver. For me, give me the stud cornerback one. That's just it's more vital. It's more vital. He's already paid. And if you trade for Ayuk, you're also then going to have to give Ayuk a contract extension that's going to be at the top of the market for wide receivers. I'm good. Let me
For what?
let me develop bub memes, bro. bub
Means, baby.
bub memes. All right, so I haven't even really touched about the draft class. So let's kind of just recap the draft. I'm just gonna go through every pick. Obviously, they started off with drafting Oregon State right tackle Fuaga, and we kind of talked about that after the draft happened. Just a player that like he should be plug and play. He should be plug and play on the right side of the line. We just talked about what we just talking about, Ryan, the run game and how Kubiak, like that's why he was brought in. So then you go and get a mauler at right tackle who's not like bad in pass protection, but he's like a bully in the run game. You insert that on the line, probably more than like you, Ryan Ramchek's gone. He's retired. You still have Reese on the right side of the line. You have McCoy. The left side looks shaky. I'll be honest. The left shot looks shaky.
Yeah.
But we said in the Discord, man, if they can somehow savage Trevor Penning, and if he could be Andres Pete, not even not new Pete, old Pete. If Trevor Penning could be old Andres Pete and give you something, the entire makeup of the offensive line looks completely different. And in theory, you now have a bully at offensive line.
Bully at offensive line. And he's played in a similar run scheme. If you watch him, you'll see him, on the backside of those zones, coming in and annihilating players on the second level. Like he could be, man, he could be like a weapon, an offensive weapon on the O line, bro. So I mean, I love it, man. The more I watch of him, the more excited I get. As much as
you was watching Fuaga tape? Oh, this nigga's sick. Oh,
I watched some Fuaga, bro. As much as we moaned about taking OL and all that, bro, like, look, man, some comfy socks that get you through the winter, bro. They get you through the winter, man. So I'm with it, man. Like I said, when it's all acceptance, bro. And it's like once you put everything in totality, once you put the whole draft in totality, then you're able to really walk away and get a good view on what we're trying to do.
Yeah,
So
you do.
I'm with it, man. I think it's a good move, and it's a good move for Clint Kubiak. One thing you could tell they let Kubiak get his input in. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
Like, you got the old lineman, you got a developmental quarterback round. You went got a little juicy weapon, call them late round of development or whatever, but you got
Bub,
somebody in the building, you know what I'm saying? Bub.
you do. Um, Fuaga's first round pick. G G made a great point. Our dude G said there's a lot of positives about Penny this offseason. Man just needs his confidence back. I mean, it also doesn't
That's
help
it.
that when you're a young player, you're benched in the way of how you're benched through the media is not like that. Like I know this is supposed to be a mostly positive podcast episode, but like as like a young player, that absolutely destroys your confidence. Like that's the worst thing to do to a young player. Like if you're gonna bench someone, be a fucking man and bench him. Like just bench him. Just pull him to the side, bench him.
Like
But
imagine. Remember, we talked about that Teron Armstead interview on Rich
mm-hmm.
Eisen, where Sean Payton lit him up in the preseason and told him, I don't think you can even play, bro. Like told him, I don't think you could. Can you play in the NFL?
That's the
Like
motivation
imagine the
tactic,
coach
though.
telling you that. But I'm saying is, imagine if Sean Payton came out to the media and said that. You know what I'm
Right,
saying?
right.
And what that would have done to Teron
Ooh,
Armstead.
this man preaching right now, bro.
But Teron was able to sit there and use that as motivation, go through the adversity, and become a great player. You know what I'm saying? But you can't. You gotta. It was a bad move, man. It was just a bad move. And hopefully, look, it sounds like Penning is doing everything he can to get ready to go.
I mean, that's
So,
we'll see how it goes. But he
but I
just
do
this
find it interesting.
go ahead.
I do find it interesting that I don't know if it was planned or just the way the draft broke out, but it's somewhat of a vote of confidence for Penning, bro. Just the way the whole draft
Right.
played out.
Right, like they didn't draft the right, they
Like
didn't draft the left tackle, and they didn't double dip in the second round. Interesting, right?
well, it's
Interesting.
interesting, yeah.
We have 50 concurrent viewers going right now. Round two, we were there at Cooter Browns. Um, Everyone's made this joke now, but it is funny as hell. We made it even when it happened in terms of like Ryan's been saying he wanted juice and we got Kool-Aid in the second round. Uh, Kool-Aid McKinstry, cornerback drafted from Alabama. He's like the first player out of this class I really like took time and watched. And you on Twitter you said it, on in our Discord you said it so perfectly because I had the exact same thoughts. Just a boring corner, man. Like and like as a that's like the best compliment that you could give to a corner, bro. Like just
Yep.
just like you just see exactly how he fits into the Saints defense. Press man, that's what he runs, that's what he excels at. He mirrors receivers well. He's good in coverage. Um, he does have a Jones fracture in his foot, but we got to get our injured player here and there. But
Got
from
to.
all intents, just and listen. That said, if he probably didn't have that Jones fracture out, maybe he goes a little higher, right? So who
Yeah.
knows? But the question that and it's weird, right? Because they drafted. This feels like the exact opposite of last draft season, right? Where you have a corner who's rated your best player available, and you draft him just because he's BPA, rather than last season, the whole Brian Branch and Foskey thing. And a thing I took away from this draft class is really, from what I know, this was a Jeff Ireland draft. And we had talked about this for a while on this podcast. Is like, who's going to have the final call during this draft? And it feels like maybe the team was like, Mickey, you've had a little shot, the last two seasons, and that's some mixed results. Like maybe let us have it back. And as much as we can clown on Mickey, and there probably still will be plenty of that. It feels like he let the reins go and he let the power go of the draft room, which is growth of that taking place. Like that's huge growth.
Yeah, man. And I don't know, it just seems obvious to me. Like we talked about, I mean, look, we reading tea leaves. We trying to, maybe we're reaching, but we're looking at the videos of the players, when the players get the call from the Saints, and you see Jeff Ireland talking to uh, the prospects, you see Dennis Allen talking to the prospects, and that's it, And if you go look at the video last year, Loomis gets the final handoff to talk to the player. I didn't see that this year. Maybe it happened off camera. I don't know. But I'm just saying, I feel like something's happening here.
Oh, that's what I
And
was
I don't know
told.
if
I
this
I
was,
I, I was told that this was a Jeff Ireland draft class from almost from start to finish.
and it feels like it, right? Like
It
just the
does.
way the draft went. It just feels like, look, we're taking best player available. We're gonna take need when it meets best player
Which,
available, but
which
we're
I
taking
100%
best player
think they
available, we're taking good
did in
tape.
round one. Yeah.
Right. And we're taking good tape, we're taking players with pedigree. It just felt like a Jeff Ireland type of draft.
And I'll say this: if Brock Bowers was on the board at 14, he was going to be a Saint. Which to me, like that, like it's heartbreaking on one hand, but on the other hand, it's like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
all right, you know what I mean? Like, all right, like these niggas get it a little bit, because that
Yeah.
would mean that even
Right.
though you had a glaring hole at right tackle, that meant you stayed to your board and stayed true to your board, and you would have taken the better player that you had graded. Which one
Exactly.
I would have wanted to happen just for the reaction of our draft party,
Oh
because
yeah.
it would have burnt that bitch down in a
Bro.
good way, bro.
Burnt it down, bro.
But that's how the process should be done. Okay. Anyway, sorry. So the interesting thing about Kool-Aid is how he fits into the Saints defense and where he plays, right? The Marshawn thing still looms over the team in terms of his future, but there's another. It's just not Marshawn, right? You have a Debo going to his last season of last year of his contract, and then I think I can finally say this like with confidence on this podcast. The team does not have a lot of faith in Alontae Taylor. They have soured on him indubitably as a player on the team. So, which is weird because I feel like they just drafted him. They just drafted him a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And I remember when they drafted him, it didn't make sense to me. I was like, it's like we were like, this is a reach. He's like a special teams player. Like we were just like,
Right.
what? But for whatever reason, the team is not a huge fan of Alontae Taylor. So I don't know how Kool-Aid's going to fit into the defense this year, but you see why he was drafted.
Yeah, no question. And I don't understand what this team does sometimes.
Bruh.
I guess that was one of the only kind of negative things I took away from this draft is they seem like they sour on their own picks quickly and try to
Real
replace
fast,
them.
bruh.
It's like I just don't understand that. I can't think it behind them, you know.
And
But I love
feels
Kool-Aid. Yeah.
it feels like the opposite, right? Like you felt when we were dealing with Marcus Davenport, when we were dealing with Peyton Turner, we felt like those are players that they should have soured on sooner. But then you have like a player like
And
Alontae who played damn well as a rookie on the outside. But I don't know, bro. It doesn't make sense to me.
I don't get it. I don't get it. But with Kool-Aid, it doesn't take much to watch, and you see, okay, he'll fit right in. That dude just played on the perimeter, mirror matched. Um, I wouldn't say he has bad hands or nothing like that, but he played within the structure of the defense, and he
Right.
didn't really deviate from it. You know what I'm saying? Like he wasn't taking a lot of chances. He talked about it himself. Like he's not a gambler, man. He tried to lock down his man, and look, I respect that.
Right.
It's gonna be interesting. I know they talked about seeing him fitting in a nickel position. Also,
I heard that
didn't
too.
play that. He didn't play that at Alabama, so you know how they do, bro. Like the Saints love drafting players at one position and putting them in another position.
They
I have
like
no problem with them.
the NFC South version of the Cardinals, right? They did it with CD Deuce, and that worked out, right? He was drafted as a safety, and he played great at nickel, and at least at least if they plan to do that with Kool-Aid, can we get him snaps at the nickel in training camp? Not like Alante, bro. Like they
Please.
played, they had Alante outside all training camp. Week 1 start, nigga, you the slot now. Good luck. Go.
Good luck. Bradley Roby out of here. Get on in there.
But I'll say this: if you and I said this on Twitter, and I know the team has like no interest in doing it, but if I'm them, I'm keeping Marshawn, him on outside, Adebo on the outside, Kool-Aid in the slot, Howden at safety, and I'm putting Alante at safety in some packages and letting Honey Badger just roam, bro. I'm putting my best players on the field in the secondary and saying, all right, beat us with the pass. Beat us with the pass.
I mean, look, your secondary is the strength of your defense right now. So, like, if I'm DA, I'm cooking it up, man. I'm cooking it up. I'm calling up Cody Alexander. I'm doing whatever, and we trying to figure out.
Please, Cody.
Trying to figure out how to put the best players on the team. Whether that's putting Alante at safety, whether that's running some kind. But that's the strength of your defense right now. You got a stacked secondary, specifically at corner.
Sorry,
specifically at corner.
Luke said I was staring at the camera like he's about to give a kiss on the forehead, so I just had to give Luke a little interracial. But yes, the team is 100% stacked at corner, and this was a debate that came up out of those three: Marshawn, Adebo, Alante. Who are you more willing to move?
I'm moving Adebo, man.
Same,
to me, it just makes the most sense. It's because 1, you get the most value out of it. 2, he's on the final year of his contract, so you either better be prepared to pay him $20 million within the next year, and I think you can get good compensation depending when. Right. It depends, but I think you could get a third, which is what you use to draft them.
Right.
You get a third and maybe a second, depending on the team and depending on when. Like you catch some teams getting injured in August, something like that. Maybe you could squeeze a second out of the team. So that would be the one I would move, but I just want this Lattimore thing to be over with. I just want
please.
What is going to be, like
it feels like a dark cloud that's hovering over the team.
It really does.
Moving on from Kool-Aid. So they didn't have a 3rd round pick. Was that due to the Sean Payton trade or the Eagles? I mean, I don't forget how many picks on. But in round 5, was it 4 or 5? I don't remember. 5, yeah.
I don't think we had a 4, did we?
Yeah, so it was round 5. The lightning rod pick of the draft. They draft quarterback from South Carolina, Spencer Rattler.
Ooh.
I'll say this.
5th pick caused so much, bro.
I'll say this. I went into watching his tape and film and was probably like expecting not to be that impressed with it at all. After I watched about 3.5 games on my flight, because I'm a sicko, I was like, I know he's a rookie, and I know there's a lot of things, but like, is he the best quarterback on the roster? Is he? I don't know, man. I came away very, very impressed with this tape. You're talking about someone who it was touted as one of the best quarterbacks in the country, a top recruit. He went to Oklahoma. Did some good things there. Eventually got benched by eventual number one overall pick Caleb Williams. He goes transfers to South Carolina, and I tweeted this. There's not a quarterback in this draft who's probably endured as much maturity, adversity, whatever you want to call it, at that position of the quarterbacks in the draft. Maybe Michael Penix with the injuries, and what have you. But like what Spencer Rattler has been through, the Saints are getting a matured version of a player and not the 17-year-old who's on a Netflix series that apparently that just stuck with teams and they just couldn't get that out of their heads. And I'm like, what the fuck were you doing when you were 17?
I mean, can you imagine? I mean, come on, man. It's so fascinating. I just I just couldn't get over the reaction because I mean I don't watch college football like that, but I've been hearing Spencer Rattler's name for years. Like I
Right.
just
Years. Yeah.
I'm like, man, how long this dude gonna play college? I remember
He was at one point like he was
be
getting
like a
mocked in like the top five draft pick.
right. I remember in that. I remember people saying he sucks. I just always remember such a divisive figure. That's why, and when they drafted him, man, people were like, "What? This dude sucks, trash." I'm like, "Oh man," went to go watch him, and I'm like, "Man, this dude talented, man. Like,
Good, bro.
this dude spinning the ball. Like I mean, this dude can throw, man. Like can throw. Um, easily. I tweeted yesterday. Easily the most talented quarterback the Saints have drafted a long time. I'm talking about Danny Werfel. I mean, it's been a long time since they drafted. Because you think about it, they drafted who? Garrett Grayson, Ian
Garrett
Book,
Grace, Ian
Sean
Book,
Canfield, Adrian. What was his name? Adrian
McPherson,
McPherson.
Florida State.
Uh,
Oh my god, I'm sick of.
Mark Bulger back in the day. Mark Bulger back in the day. It's like they drafted a lot of guys. You could maybe be, but this is a guy who could throw. Look, I know his 40 time was trash, but he can move. You know what I'm saying? Um, he's a shorter quarterback, but he has a real compact delivery, kind of like Drew Brees. No, I'm not
Oh, don't say that.
compact delivery. He doesn't have like some elongated
Right,
throwing
right.
motion. It's like everything is like here and boom, ball coming out. Like there's a lot there to like. Well, what's the plan for him? Are they taking him to develop a backup? Do they potentially see someone that could compete for a starting? I think they looked at the
Yeah, bro.
high upside, and say, "Hey, this is a guy we could develop slowly over a year or two that can possibly compete for a starting job at best, and at worst, be a backup. And backups go for 8 to 10, 12 minutes. So, like, I loved it. I loved it. I wouldn't even call it a complaint, but it goes back to what we was just talking about is how they sour on players they drafted so quick. I was like, damn. So, I mean, are they done with Jake Hayner? We were already hearing that, like, hey, they kind of male Hayner. I'm like, damn, it's just been 1 year. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
I
I
don't know,
just
man.
don't get that.
Sometimes the Saints feel like if you ever had like a person that you just really wanted to just knock out the park, bro. Like you just wanted to knock out the park, and then like they had like their chances to like knock it out the park, and then they're just like, mm, okay, well, that's
Yeah,
that's what it feels like at times,
exactly.
bro. It's just I don't know, but I'm we could spend we be
They
honest.
remind me of my wife.
Go
They
ahead.
remind me of my wife because she'll go like we'll be at the store, she'll buy like a blouse or something. This is cute. Buy a blouse, get home, put it on, like, eh, just throw it. It's like, I'm not wearing this. She just loved it like 2 hours ago at the store.
That's a great
I
analogy.
don't get it.
Uh, we could spend a whole podcast just talking about Spencer Rattler, bro. Like we honestly we could. Um,
Yeah.
but I love the dart throwing. just keep throwing darts
Yeah.
until you get a
Keep.
quarterback. Keep doing it. I love it. He's one of the first players that they drafted. It's funny, the Saints drafted two in this class, where and we gotta rework. And I even said in the article I wrote for the quarterback metrics, like there's so many other things that go into quarterbacks that we're gonna add for the draft prospect. But like from just an athletic profile, he's like worse than the Saints. Again, that's a very small sample size because the Saints haven't drafted a lot of quarterbacks. Um, but it's weird because even though he ran slower, like when you watch him, like he's elusive, not elusive, but like he can extend plays and convert third
Mhm.
downs or key downs with his legs when it's important. There's still a couple of games I want to watch of him, but I left coming away thinking like he's going to be a fun player to keep track of during training camp. And he's a player, not that I wasn't, but like when I'm in Irvine and I'm going to those practices, like my when he's taking snaps, like my eyes going to be like focused in of how he's doing and how he's playing, because I think it's going to be a fascinating thing for him. And then later in the draft, after Spencer Rattler, they drafted Pittsburgh wide receiver Bub Memes, just like a mold of clay, just clay, bruh. Like you just the talent's there, but it's very very raw. You see the explosiveness. I've said in the Discord, if he could just be Brandon Coleman, like a higher level version of Brandon Coleman, like I'm good. But you could see like how tantalizing he is, to be taken later in the draft.
Oh, no question, man. Like he runs a 4.4. It's 4.4 speed. He's big, not super big, but like 6'1", almost 6'2".
He
He's a
looks
hands
bigger on
catcher.
film.
On film, he looks big, right? He's a hands catcher. If you watch him, he's not just catching with his chest; he's catching with his hands. Uh, I believe he converted from cornerback to wide receiver, which I'm like, damn, I never hear of that. It's
Right.
usually the other way around. So that and look, his quarterback was horrible. I was like, good God, this is terrible. But man, the dude went in there, competed, made plays. He's a special team. I think he was like their top gunner for Pitt. So I think he's a guy. Look, man, like I got high hopes for him, man. Not like one number one wide receivers, but I was saying like, maybe he could be Kubiak's Jawan
Juwan Jennings.
Jawan Jennings. Not saying he's like the same type of player like prospect. I just mean just in the usage where
Right.
you don't think of Jawan Jennings as like the number one 49ers wide receiver, but you put on the game, you be like, damn, Jawan Jennings making some plays. You know what I'm saying? I think he could be that type of player where, end of the game is like, damn, he caught 5 catches for, 75 yards and a touchdown, just a nice player. I like a player that had a ton of just a ton of upside, man. And he's a fun player. If you watch his interview, he's kind of a fun player to listen to. So I think he's gonna fit right in.
Yeah, I think he will too. And I tweeted, I said, Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, A.T. Perry, Cedric Wilson, Bub Memes. I
But
don't want to
means
see I don't want to see Kirk Backwoods' name ever again. I don't want to see it. Keep it away from me.
backwoods out of here, bro.
Get him out of here. Cody said, "Were there any players that the Saints passed over that made you think why did they skip him?" The one that I kept thinking about was Brandon Rice from USC.
Mhm.
Since we're talking about wide receivers, I just felt that what he did, how he played, he was a meets metrics and RAS meets, and he's a good route runner. Kind of goes into what they do, but I do also think that they kind of felt like they needed like and what you're getting in Bub is like a player who is like a bigger type of receiver. And I feel like maybe they feel like they have a lot of those technician guys and Chris Olave and Shaheed, and maybe needed something a little different from that kind of wide receiver prototype. But that was like the one that kept just jumping out to me. After uh, we still have 50 viewers going right now, which is great. Uh, After but me, memes, I'm gonna get that right. They drafted Texas linebacker Jalen Ford, who, if you like read my draft prospect article, he's someone I predicted that the team may for sure draft because he was a meets on all the metrics in terms metrics and RAS, and sure enough, they drafted him round 5. I don't know. Pete Warner? I think Pete Warner don't know this, bro. Pete Warner is
Oh, he
on no
absolutely.
notice.
Because they drafted, I mean, they signed the Chiefs linebacker, forgot
Will,
his name.
Willie Gay.
Willie Gay. They signed Willie Gay. He's going to compete against snaps. And then this guy here, I mean, he's a quintessential Mike linebacker. Middle of the field, shoulder square, coming downhill. Looks decent in coverage. Big. I think he's like 6'2", 240. Just look like a big old school linebacker, man.
Mm-hmm.
I watched them, but I said it before. I've given up on evaluating linebackers. I've gotten it too wrong over the years. I just
Well,
and just the way the college get.
we done look we were
So
too
what?
wrong when we but Pete Warner when after the draft. But he's right about
But
that.
Pete Warner, I thought Pete. I didn't think Pete Warner was going to make it to the team, bro. I thought he was. I couldn't stand him. And he's not that bad. Like he's not bad where he can't play. He's just he's disappointed a little bit the last year or two. I mean, it's hard to evaluate linebackers in college for me, just the way the game is. The
Yeah,
game is
man.
so horizontal, but I'm interested to see, man. Like I think he could come in and definitely compete. Probably won't start early, especially with the way
Yeah.
they throw so much at the linebackers early. It's just a lot to know. But man, like he has all the tools and pedigree to be a starter uh, on this team, and you could just see it, bro. Like you could just see that he has, and he's not like some raw prospect, man. This dude has been a Mike linebacker for a long
Yeah.
time, so I loved it, man.
I did too. Like it's funny because I like when we're doing this draft prospect matching uh data project, there are some players that will catch my eye for whatever reason, and I'll just go and watch. And I remember watching him when I was writing the article or when I saw the data, and I was like, he kind of good. He just it's just something about his game that I felt. I was like, man, like if they could just add him, and I don't know where he was slated to go around all that. I was like, he just felt like a good player that could bring even just depth to the linebacker
Yeah,
room.
right.
Went out.
And they need it.
Yeah, they absolutely do. Um, who in the war room? He said, "Oh, Maz in the war room has told him to sit your ass down. We make these picks." And then the in the later rounds. So this is what round 6, I think, or maybe this was the 5th round again.
Another fifth.
Northern Iowa defensive tackle Christian Boyd.
Mm.
I felt this pick in my bones, bro.
You did, bro.
I felt it in my bones, and the reason, I explained this to you in text message. Here's a prospect at defensive tackle that historically, in 20 years, was like completely worse in almost every metric that the Saints have drafted for defensive tackle in 20 years. So he was his 3-cone was worse, his shuttle was worse, and his RAS was worse. But they brought him in for a top 30 visit. Okay. Usually, if you're bringing a player in, you typically that player is going to meet your metric in some type of way. The only thing that made sense to me is why you would bring in a player who does not meet your prototype is that you are so interested in this player, even though you know this player does not meet your prototype. I even said in the article, the Saints run defense has not been great lately. They lost. I didn't say this in the article, but they lost. Malcolm Roach, one of the best, defensive tackles at run defense. Maybe they wanted to get a closer look at a player who didn't meet their profile, but they were interested in to help boost their run game to see how he potentially would fit on their team. And it took a while, but like when I saw the name, I was like, there it is. Like if you just put the pieces together, sometimes teams kind of tell on themselves. Not every time, but sometimes teams tell on themselves. And with them bringing Boyd in, I was like, they want him. They want to add him to the team, and sure enough, he was there. He was drafted, and listen, man, he might be like a late round like Jim Ryan in
No
terms of
question,
what he
man.
may bring to the defensive line.
No question. You go watch the tape, man. He's a movable object. Like he doesn't move. He's small. Like he's short, thick, um, just powerful at the point of attack. Gives you a little more pass rush than you might think. Um,
Right.
just because he's really smart with his hand usage and stuff like that. So I mean, I loved it, man. But bravo, on the metrics work, man. Like you and Jay, like that shit was clutch. I mean, I think only two players that weren't matched, either limited or all the way, were Rattler and Boyd.
Boyd. Yep.
Um, and that was it. I mean, maybe that late old lineman, I didn't check him,
Nope. He was
but
on there too. He was limited.
he was on there too. So we try to tell y'all that. I'm telling you, that prospect mention list, it's so clutch when it comes to the draft. And it's only going to get better the more data we get.
Right.
So
Uh,
it was clutch.
and so it's interesting you said that because even if you listen to DA after they drafted Fuaga, a thing that he said is that Fuaga typically didn't have the arm length that they typically look for in
Mm-hmm.
a tackle. So that's like so next year we want to add arm length, we want to add hand size, and our dude Bajan hit me up yesterday and he said, man, after y'all we're so right with the players, he's like, we really want to get this database going. So we don't
Mm-hmm.
know we don't know how it's going to look. We don't know when it's going to be up, but at some point there will be a Saints block party like draft prospect matching database for only Patreons or YouTube members, where literally all you have to go in is type a name and you could see if a player fits, if it doesn't fit, where he matches, where he doesn't match. Like that's the goal of where this is going. So but it was just good to kind of see like, all right, man, like all the work that we put into it, like it's it is predictive. Like it is very predictive. And sometimes even if the data isn't predictive, like Boyd was a perfect example of the data not being predictive, but the team told you what they felt about him when they brought him in for that visit.
Exactly. And that's the thing about analytics. It's not just the analytics, but it's all the
Mm-mm.
information around it that you marry together
Yep.
to predict certain things. So that's what I found fascinating about it. Yeah, man, that was pretty cool. That was a cool moment. And we'll see how that. What I think it was John Ziegler. He did an interview with Kent Baum, who does the RAS stuff,
Oh,
and like he was saying, nose tackle is kind of like its own position.
right.
So when you take their RAS and you take nose tackles and compare them to other defensive tackles,
It's going to be
they're
completely
always gonna
different.
it's gonna be completely different. So it made 100% sense for the Saints to bring him in and really get a good look at him, with
Hmm.
their own eyes to know if he's gonna fit what they want to do. He's gonna be a guy that plays, first down, second down, maybe third short, goal line. He's gonna be a player, bro. Like I watched him, I was very impressed.
Very, very impressive. Like I don't know if this comp makes any sense, but you remember Phil Taylor, who was like on the Browns, I believe, like kind of like
Oh
that
yeah,
nose
yeah,
tackle. Like
yeah.
Baylor,
Phil
was
Taylor.
it?
Yeah,
Maybe I don't remember, bro. Oh, it
I don't
probably was
remember his
Baylor.
school.
Um,
I want to
that's
say the
just
Saints wanted him.
did they?
I can't remember. It could have been somebody else.
Um, just I think they may have gotten a gym. And it also because of Boyd went to school in northern Illinois, Boyd's out there hyping up Trevor Penning. He said, "Oh, like
Yeah.
former teammate said he
Yep.
coming." So we'll see where that goes. And then finally, they ended the draft drafting I believe like a tackle from FCS school, Joshua Izurum. Did I pronounce that correctly? Is
I
Izurum?
don't know, man.
Oh, I said Joshua. It's not Joshua. Sorry, Josiah Izurum. Just a complete project at, in the third in
Yeah.
the sorry in the seventh round. We'll see. I'm not
I have I have no analysis for you whatsoever. I'm not. I think I did one search to find a game or something. I couldn't find it, and I was like, I'm not.
Let's wrapping up. They did sign 15 undrafted free agents. Cody asks, why do you think Holker went undrafted? Does he have does he have a better chance to make the team than usual? Probably just because like the tight end, you just look at that tight end room. You got Juwan Johnson, Taysom, maybe Foster Moreau. Like that's it.
No. I'm
That's
sure
it.
he looked at that. I'm sure him and his agent looked at that and like,
Yeah.
yeah, I could make that team.
And
You know
I'm
what I'm
and I'm
saying? Let's
pretty sure
get with them.
that's how the Saints sold it to him. He's like there's an
Exactly.
opportunity here. It's blah blah. So I know he's gonna be like a early training camp like favorite, bro. Like I can already see it.
Oh yeah.
And
I
then
already see it, bro.
over under 2.5 years before Rittler, or sorry, over under 2.5 seasons before Rittler is a starting quarterback. I'm gonna go under. I'm going under. I'm
Under?
gun, guns blazing, Ryan. Guns, and this is why I say this. Obviously, it depends on what happens with DA, blah blah blah. But you brought up this point is that if you just watch Rattler's tape, I was calling him Rittler for a little bit. If you just watch Rattler's tape, it is very easy to see how he could run a Kubiak Shanahan like offense. And I know Greg Cosell kind of talked about like he's not like an anticipation thrower, like he doesn't throw with anticipation. And there's probably something to that, but I will say just overall, his accuracy in college was like a strength of his. Like
Mm-hmm.
he's an accurate thrower, and I just if you just put some games and you see him in preseason, you see him in training camp, and he's like moving the ball and staying within the offense. I think it might be like you can see it, right? Like it's like, ooh, you can just kind of see it. I'm going under, bro. I'm Rattler, full steam ahead. Start
And what I
start my
found fascinating
start my
was
biracial quarterback.
what I found fascinating is, he had dinner with Kubiak when he visited with the Saints. They went to the
Mm.
facility. They went to the facility and Kubiak installed some offense with Rattler, I'm
Rattler.
sorry.
We gotta work on it.
And, but installed some offense, had to run it and stuff like that. So that is fascinating to me, bro. That is really fascinating that Kubiak himself got his hands on him and was enough to give enough a thumbs up for the Saints to draft him. You know what I'm saying?
I'll
Like that means something to me.
I'll say this because we keep saying Rittler. I felt like Spencer Rattler's tape was better than Rittler's tape was when he got
Oh
drafted.
yeah. Oh hell yeah, man. No question. No question, bro. No question. I don't look. He was a fifth round pick, bro. But I know like Bucky Brooks, Dane Jeremiah, Greg Cosell. A lot of people thought he would be like a second round quarterback. You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
that Andy Dalton range. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah, yeah.
A lot of people thought he would go in the second, maybe early third round. For the Saints to get him in the fifth, I think it's a good move, man. I think it's a good move. Don't sweat the QB1 stuff, man. Let's just develop the kid who he is now. You know.
Oh, I'm sweating it. I'm pushing the agenda, bro.
Well, I mean the QB1, the
I know.
documentary. Don't sweat the
Oh, the
QB1.
documentary. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
No, Rattler QB1, full steam ahead, bro.
Let's go. Let's go.
The most insane thing is like if he just ends up winning like the backup job, bro, and like Derek Carr gets like hurt for like a game. I'm not wishing this on Derek Carr, by the way. I can't stand him, but I'm not
Bruh.
wishing this on him. And like Rattler comes in and he just out there just slinging that thing, bro.
We
Need it, bro. I
I
need it.
need it, man.
Anyway, uh, people are like Derek Carr was mad when we just wanted Jameis to start last season. I forgot what the tweet was, but you better play our not handsome biracial quarterback one. We ready, baby. Ready. Anyway. Thank y'all for sticking with us and just we're trying to get this episode out. So thank y'all for being patient, and thank y'all for just understanding. Like again, like we have things that in our personal lives, and we have lives that we at times, sometimes it just kind of takes a back seat to the podcast, but we always just want to make sure that we're putting out content for y'all. So y'all have it. We know how big the draft is. It's big for everybody. It's big for the podcast. It's always an episode that brings in a lot of listeners and downloads and views and all that. So we really knew how important this podcast was to get out there. Um, so that said, recap is done. We'll be back. We'll see. We'll be back maybe this week. I don't even know what we have planned, honestly. But we will be back and this week and hopefully put something else out there. We'll see what we can cook up. I mean, I'll say this, like there's football content right now and a couple, and then you have rookie mini camp, and then after that it is literally it's
Crickets.
it's until
Nothing.
training camp. So we can, I think when maybe we'll do like a little fun we all breaking down like a prospect, right? Just doing that together. I'm not doing an O-line, bro. It got to be
No.
somebody else. We can break down Kool-Aid. Let's as a group, let's watch like a good game from Spencer Rattler and like a bad game for Spencer Rattler, and just break them down as a community, bro. Like that would be fun.
Yeah. That
um
would be dope.
so maybe we'll do that. So when is rookie mini camp? That's a good question. I know it's soon. Like rookie mini camp's always like very like almost feels like immediately after the draft. Um, let's see. I could probably look it up. Give me 1 second, Eddie. Uh, uh, uh. So last year it was like it started like June ish. Rookie? I feel like that's like
Rookie?
later than usual. Yeah, it feels like that's. Hold please. It's crazy because like we get the dates too in our emails. We'll post it, Eddie. I don't know, or unless someone else in the chat can help Eddie out. But thank y'all so much for the support. Thank y'all for watching. If you didn't watch, please like, subscribe, all that. If you're listening on just a podcast format, please, you know, 5-star, all that. Make sure you're subscribed and followed to the podcast. We love y'all. We appreciate y'all. We will be back later this week. Don't know when, don't know what, but we'll be back later this week talking about something. Hope everyone had a fun draft weekend. We'll be back with that. We're out.
Peace.